Gen Z isn't lazy, boomers. Just don't understand that hard work isn't enough to live anymore. Wrong. It's wrong. Sorry, Gen Z's lazy. It's just that Gen Z doesn't understand hard work. Sorry, that's a fact. Now, there are a lot of good points made in this viral TikTok video by this young woman, and I think she is correct in a lot of her assessment, but let me just stress. What it means to live is very different from a boomer to someone who is Gen Z. Gen Z individuals have a lot more access to technologies and things that boomers did not have. So what is defined as living is different. That is not to say that this young woman is wrong in her assessment about how hard it is to live. I agree, but to blame boomers and act like they don't understand, it's not so much that it's harder for you to live. It's that what boomers are describing as living is very different from what you're describing as living. What I will say, however, Gen Z is lazy. Millennials are lazy. There is an increase in laziness. And I mean it. I mean it. Look, man, people crossed the ocean on boats, landed on shores with literal nothing. And I think 20% died on the way here. I was thinking about how crazy it is. Like, you've got, I'm talking about like Native Americans and the more peaceful tribes versus the more barbaric tribes. How would you survive? And just imagine living in open wilderness, no law enforcement, no police, no military. You have a small settlement. You have a couple hundred people. You build walls around your settlement. And every day you worry that when someone rides up on horseback, they may just try to murder everybody. And so you have to sound the alarm. Halt, who goes there? How do you trust them? It's not so easy. You want to talk about what it means to live and hard work? People just died back then. You'd be out riding your horse. You'd fall off and be dead and gone. You'd be walking down a dirt path to trade your wares when a bandit would jump out, knife you to death, take your stuff, and they'd never find out who did it. People just died a lot back then. I mean, like way back. Let me play this video, and we will have this debate, and we'll discuss what it means to truly work. Boomers don't understand what Gen Z is going through. I think that's fair, but Gen Z is lazy. Sorry. Not every single Gen Z person is lazy. I am saying that the majority of Gen Z people are lazy. And it's not, I don't blame Gen Z. Actually, for that, I kind of do blame boomers. And then even after that, it's not so much boomers, but what humans have done. Let me play this video. Let's roll. Let's play this video for sure.
Boomer mind cannot comprehend this.
Okay, the previous creator has her stitches off, but if you haven't seen her stuff already, she's one of my favorite creators on this app, and I think we need to talk about this because I am a Gen Z who has boomer parents, and what she says is true. Boomers are stuck in the past so hard that they can't even comprehend that us, like Gen Z and millennials, it's not just that we're lazy and we don't want to work hard, it's that even if we worked as hard as possible, we still can't, like, afford to live right now.
Wrong. Wrong. You can easily afford to live. It's called, she gets into the numbers and she's like, you take home $2,300 a month if you're lucky. And it's like, go live somewhere else. But there's a lot to break down. And we'll talk about what it means to have hard work. But let's play the video.
Hard work isn't enough anymore.
It is.
And I hear these comments all the time as someone who's like parents, friends, or all that age. They think that we're all just lazy.
You are.
And they refuse to realize that like times have changed. It is not the same as when you were our age. Just to start, let's look at the rise of the average home value over the years versus the rise of the average household income as compared to when boomers were our age and able to easily afford rent. So boomers would have been our age sometime between the 70s and the late 80s here. So this is the average price of housing or a house at that time. And this is the average income of the household, right? Here it is now. Do you see the difference? Do you see how, like, yes, it was hard back then. It's just not even comparable.
Okay. Oh man, there's so much to break down on this. If you actually do the numbers, you see that the rate of growth for the price of homes versus income, it's a rate of about 10x. As of right now, it's actually slightly less than 10x, which means, yes, if you were making like 50K, the cost of houses were going up, but that's not the issue. To argue that the price of homes has increased faster now than it was back then, she's close to making an apt argument, but she's missing the point. This is not talking about the cost of the house versus how much income you make. It's the increase in wages with the increase in the cost of the house. That means for boomer parents who are in the 80s, you were looking at X dollars versus X times Y for the cost of a house. Whereas today it's X times Y plus or whatever. So anyway, my point is growth in the cost doesn't actually describe the current values. So growth is relatively meaningless because if you actually do the number by growth, you'd see that the growth is lower today than it was in the 80s. My point is that's not a good argument to make. It's not completely wrong. But let's talk about the cost of houses. First, I will say, fair point, houses are very expensive. It's harder to buy a house today, especially if you're a millennial. Two things to consider: supply and demand, mass migration, and feminism. With doubling the workforce towards the end of the late 70s, getting more and more women in the workforce, this created a massive supply of workers with a limited demand. A massive demand for work with a limited supply of jobs. Sorry. So you have a company, 10 openings. Five men are looking for work. And they're like, look, man, all these companies need me. And what are you going to pay me? When it's only men, and I'm not saying that as an argument against women in the workplace. This is an economic point. When you have a bunch of job openings, the business says, I need you to work here. And they go, I can work wherever I want. I'll pay you $10 an hour. You know what? I'll take the offer, but there's 17 other jobs. I'm going to go ask them. Then go to the other company and says, dude offers me 10. I'll give you 11. Let me go back. He says 11. I'll give you 12. Because they desperately need the limited supply of labor. Double the labor overnight, ladies. And what happens? Now there's 10 people for 10 jobs and they're like, take it or leave it. I've got people sending in applications nonstop. I don't need you. Who wants to work for $3 an hour? Then incorporate mass migration. Now you've got a limited supply of housing with a massive demand, a limited supply of jobs with a massive demand, and you wonder why this is happening. I'm not blaming Gen Z for this. I'm blaming boomers, the silent generation, and current Democrats for these policies. But anyway, I'm not trying to say that with her argument of the increase in the cost of houses that she's completely wrong. I'm saying the argument doesn't quite make sense.
The second chart I did steal from Madeline. Here's the average tuition for college, right? And the average full-time 40 hours a week job, which
Okay, let me pause right there. Did you actually pull up the numbers for how many boomers went to college? You're not comparing apples to apples, okay? Apples to oranges. First of all, college is a guarantee you're in debt and you lose money. Anyone who told you otherwise lied to you to sell you a package. They wanted you to take a loan out. So if your argument is, look, tuition's going up. No, the argument should be the way you got ripped off. Yeah, sorry, boomers. They convinced you to take out massive debt. This is why I'm in favor of student loan forgiveness. My plan, abolish interest rates, but you got to pay back the principal. Money was given, money was spent, money must be paid back. But interest rates, you're gone. Anybody who's already paid more than the principal of their loan gets the remainder tax credit. So if you took out $50,000 in loans and you've paid down $70,000, that $20,000 excess is forgiven in your taxes. So when you file, bigger refund.
Even do in college. So I don't know why this is relevant, but here's when boomers existed. And here it is now. It stops at 2010 too. It's probably gone up since then. But
and you know what? It's a component of that. Boomers were less likely to go to college. The reason for this is after World War II, the greatest generation could raise a family, raise multiple children off a high school diploma. Boomers were raised knowing you did not need college. Colleges then had a problem. Not everybody wanted to go, and they needed to get more people in. So what happens? The prices went down. They said, or the prices remained lower. They said, hey, you want to go to college? And people were like, nah, I don't need to. And they were like, well, why don't you come? I mean, you can enrich yourself and you can learn things. Okay, how much does it cost? $100? Nah, too expensive. Have a nice day. Now, everyone is told you have to go to college, and they're banging on the door saying, please accept me. And the college is like, you can come. 200 grand. And they're like, I'll figure it out. And they rush to get a loan, drown themselves in debt because they're desperate to get into college. Supply and demand answers so much of this. Again, not saying she's wrong about everything. She is bringing up points, but boomers did not need college. Now we are seeing this inversion. We are seeing businesses say, no college degree necessary, just experience. Can you do the job? Wake up call.
Let's do the actual math to prove that you cannot budget in this economy. For argument's sake, I was making $20 an hour working 40 hours a week, right? That's twice what minimum wage is in my state.
Minimum wage is completely immaterial to any argument about whether or not you can survive, but let's continue.
Let's just pretend everyone's making twice minimum wage for whatever reason, like argument's sake. So you're making that much every 2 weeks, which here's the math. This is your take home after tax every month. So let's budget it, shall we? Average rent in my city for a 1-bedroom is about $2,000, but luckily I live in a shoebox, so after paying for parking, utilities, and all that, it's about $1,500. And yes,
You are choosing to live in a city where you can't make enough money to pay your rent. Have you considered moving somewhere else? Why do you insist on living in this city? I've told this story before. I had a friend who was like, I really wish I could do what you do and travel the world. And I said, okay, then go do it. And they're like, well, I can't afford it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't afford it? I was like, how much do you think it costs? I had a buddy of mine. He was like, man, I really want to travel. I want to go to Bali. And I was like, so go. And he's like, I can't afford to go. And I was like, why not? And he's like, bro, it's too expensive. And I was like, okay. And I pulled up my phone, opened Kayak, and went trip to Bali in 1 week, $800 round trip. And he was like, what, $800? And I was like, did you even check? No, he just assumed. I have this friend's like, I can't travel the world and report on news like you do. It's so hard. And I'm like, dude, it cost me $1,000 to go to Spain for 2 weeks. Hostels exist. They're dirt cheap. And they go, well, yeah, but I got to pay rent. I'm like, well, pay rent where? What? The hostel's $10. No, my apartment. Your apartment? Yeah, I got a really cool apartment in Williamsburg. Oh, okay. Well, if your apartment in Williamsburg is more important than traveling, then of course you can't travel. The question for her is, have you not considered going and living somewhere cheaper? It exists. The problem is these people want, not need. I'm not trying to be a dick, but if you're like, it would be so cool to live in Wynwood in Miami, it's like, well, good luck affording that. You want nice things you can't buy? Bro, I'd love to have a flying car. They exist. I can't buy it. You want to live in a nice place. It's no different. It's an item you want, not need. You can choose to go live somewhere where it's substantially cheaper and the economy is better proportionally. But people keep choosing to live in high demand areas. So what happens? Everyone wants to live there. So you've got apartments that are like, I've got 500 applications. I'm just going to charge what I can charge in this market. There's legal restrictions and stuff, but you get my point.
Parking because you got to have a car to get to and from work. So now we're down to this. But then there's food. I only ate about 1.5 meals every day. So that was $20 for food a day because making meals for one person is expensive. 20 times 7 times 4 is $560. So knock that off of here. And we're down to $654. Sadly, we're not done. The average student loan cost in the country is about $300. So we'll say.
And there it is. You didn't need your degree. You're making $20 an hour. You can get $20 an hour doing a lot of jobs that don't require degrees, and therein lies the big problem. Let's just say that $300 student loan debt is immaterial, and you've got $654 left over. But let's let her continue.
$300 off of that. Now we're down to $354. Luckily, insurance for cars in Minnesota is only $70 because you got to have a car to get to and from work every day. And thankfully, I drove a hybrid and I didn't do much driving outside of that. So I only had to fill up my tank twice a month, which was $50 roughly each time. Actually more, but we'll round down. So that's $100 as well. And now we're down to $184. But wait, I have medication that literally keeps me alive that I have to pay for every month. And now that I'm looking at the budget,
I'm going to pause right there and say, I don't believe you. My immediate assumption, and this is my bias, so we don't need to factor into the argument, but I'm assuming she's on some kind of like mind altering or mood stabilizing drug she doesn't need.
I'm thinking that might be what we should cut out at this point. But for now, we'll pretend we want to keep going and knock another $50 off this. This is what we're at, but don't forget, we still need basic things like toilet paper, soap, tampons, things like that. So we'll just pretend that's only $50 a month. Woo, and now at this point, we're just praying we never need to go to the dentist or the doctor or replace any clothing or anything bad happens at all, like a flat tire. But wait, there's still more. Because these boomers promised us that it was possible to retire with this much money left at the end of every month.
No, they didn't.
Okay, let's go do our basic retirement calculator. We're going to pretend we want to retire at the age of 67 because that's what they're trying to raise it to now. And I'm going to just pray that I pass at 88, even though every woman in my family has lived well into her 90s. Given that I can't budget in a doctor, this would probably be a good bet. According to those calculations, I need to be saving this much money per month in order to retire at that age. So we'll have to knock that off too. And that leaves us with, drumroll please, this much money in our bank account at the end of every month.
Excuses, excuses. I love the excuses. I love the excuses. I never made excuses. You know what drives me, makes me so angry? When I was younger, hearing from people, I could do it if only I had the money. And it's just the weirdest thing to me. Maybe it's because I grew up skateboarding, and whether or not you accomplished something had nothing to do with whether you had the money. It had everything to do with whether or not you had the gumption and the force of will to do it. And that is to say, how did I get started doing all of this? Did I have a $1,500 apartment? Did I make $20 an hour? No, I didn't. Yeah, I'm homeless several times. It's so weird, though. How did I make it to this point? How is it possible? I don't have a college degree. I didn't even finish high school. And then the response I get every time is, yes, but you're the exception, not the rule. And I say, funny how everyone who goes down this path tends to survive and make it to varying degrees, and everyone who goes down your path complains we're all the exception. I reject that.
Want to advise us on how to budget this? Because I'm thinking maybe taking out the life-saving medication. So no, boomers, it's not that we're not working hard. It's that we don't have any hope or money.
Now, here's what I actually think. What I actually think is a lot of this is the fault of boomers. And the reason why this young woman doesn't understand the world is because she was raised poorly. I blame her parents, but not just her parents, the majority of the boomer generation. Boomers did some awesome stuff. They created a lot that resulted in people like me. I exist because of boomers. So I like a lot of the really great things boomers did. That being said, millennials are the worst. Gen Z is actually pretty good. I got to be completely honest. If I got a generational bias, millennials are awful. Gen Z actually kind of all right. Could be better, but fairly all right. I swear it's kind of funny. You see, Gen Z is a bit more, what's the right word? There's a lot of weird woke behaviors in Gen Z and all that stuff, but millennials are substantially worse. So here's what happens. How does she not know how to survive and navigate the system? Her parents didn't teach her to do it. So now she's confused about everything going on, and she's got boomer parents criticizing her. So what does she do? She says, you don't understand how hard it is. Yes, both boomers, I would say boomers are responsible for the attitude of the generations that they have created. Ultimately, fault lies with the boomers because boomers created millennials and Gen Z. And to a certain degree, Gen Xers created Gen Z. All the generations, bleed together and stuff like that. But ultimately, the point is this. If boomers raised us better and were better stewards of this nation, you would not be having this conversation. These ideas would not be so prevalent. I could sit down with this young woman, guaranteed, and construct a plan in probably an hour that would allow her to retire with $1 million, that would see her making double her money, $40 to $80 within a couple of years. But she doesn't know how to do this. Why? Well, she's an adult. She went to college. She has student loans. They did not prepare her for life. They wasted her money, dragged her down in debt, and screwed her over. The lessons needed to learn to survive are relatively simple and free. You don't need money. How to survive. One thing I often say to people to help them understand this, because when I was 16, when I was 17, this was the craziest thing to me. I'd ask people like, hey, you want to go do this, do that? And they'd be like, no, I don't have any money and I don't know how to do it. And it's like, I got to find a job. And I'd be like, what do you need a job for? And they'd be like, well, I need money. And I'm like, so what do you need a job for? Like, you need to make money is what you're saying. And they're like, well, yeah, how else am I going to do it? And I'm like, I don't know, sell cookies? What do you mean? Like, do a bake sale? They're like, huh? I'm like, go stand in a street corner and rap. Just beatbox. People will give you money. Ask someone for it. Now, begging, I wouldn't recommend. I prefer hard work. The point is this. I would always tell people, dude, the way you make money is simple. You convince someone to give you money in exchange for a thing. You don't need a job to do that. But the mentality of all of the kids around me when I was growing up was, you have to have a job to get money. And I'm like, no, someone has to hand you money for you to get money. It could be a friend. It could be a family member. It could be a stranger. It could be someone buying a delicious ice cream bar from you that you've sold. It's funny. Maybe it's because I grew up in South Side of Chicago. You got these kids. They're hustlers. They go to the store. They'll go to the dollar store and they'll buy a bunch of candy bars. They'll then get boxes and walk around the park and make money. It's so crazy to me. And they make a lot. Now, what I don't respect is those kids who'd be like, I'm fundraising for my high school basketball team and we want jerseys and we need money. I'd be like, nah, get out of here. I ain't falling for that one, dude. Sell me a candy bar. I'll give you a couple bucks for it. It's the convenience of not having to go to the grocery store to find one. I'm here at the park. My favorite were the guys who would come with the elotes carts. They'd buy a cart, they'd fill it up with corn, Parmesan cheese, mayonnaise, and cayenne pepper. And they'd walk up, and for $1, you get corn in a cup, and it was awesome. I couldn't get that anywhere else. That guy made money. Why? He gave me corn. And, it really was that simple. But you see, people like her say, we're not lazy. Okay. All right, let me ask you something. Would you move out of your apartment, share a studio shoebox, share it to cut your rent in half? She says, I live in a shoebox, rent is $1,500. Okay. How about you get a roommate? No, I don't want to do that. Okay. I equate that comparably to laziness. Are you willing to do what you must to survive, save money, sacrifice to do better? If you're not, then don't come to me and say you deserve, because life is not fair and life is not easy. That's never been the case. How did I survive in Los Angeles? 3 people living in a studio apartment. Rent was a couple $100. There was a closet that was about 6 feet long and 2.5 feet wide, which I was like, honestly, I could sleep in here. Basically got my own little private room. Is it undignified? I don't care if you think it's undignified. I've slept on park benches. Is that undignified? I don't care what you think, because I had a plan and I did whatever I had to do to survive. And that meant sleeping in a car. Now, let me talk about when I got a job at Vice. You want to talk about budgeting? I'll tell you about budgeting. A good friend of mine allowed me to sleep on his couch for $300 a month. And that's the easiest and fastest thing I was able to get. And so when I was working at Vice and I was getting paid probably not as much as they should have paid, let's be honest, Vice didn't pay very well, I said, I am going to save all of this money. I was at Occupy Wall Street. I had saved $5,000. I had it in the bottom of my backpack. I have never spent that money. And I said, no matter how bad it gets, this money never gets spent, because this is the money that keeps me from dying. And so if I needed something to eat or whatever, I'd find an odd job. I'd figure it out. And I actually had a bit more than 5, and I was whittling it down, and then eventually started getting donations for the work I was doing in covering protests. And I used that to survive. And it wasn't super easy. And there was the kindness of strangers always. But I'm very, I believe in hard work, and I don't like taking handouts to a certain degree. But let me ask you, my young friend, are you willing to sleep on a couch for $300 a month to put that extra $1,200 in your savings? How about this? You needed $1,000 to get to retirement. Have you considered sleeping on a couch, putting that $1,000 per month into a savings account, building that buffer, and then after you've cleared that, guess what? We're now looking at, let's say you sleep on a couch for a year, or a couple couches you bounce around. And I'm not talking about imposing on people. I'm talking about friends who are like, hey man, I need supplemental income. Would you want to crash on my couch for a couple $100? Maybe you could let someone sleep on your couch for a couple $100. Bang. Now you got a couple $100 more bucks per month. The idea that young people are like, I should be able to buy a house right now. It's like, maybe, but none of that matters. If you are not willing to do what you need to do to survive, then perhaps it's fair to say boomers are wrong about the challenges you face. But the idea that you should be able to get a college degree, a high-paying job, buy a house, afford for retirement, you're saying, I want it all. No, here's what happens. Let's actually factor in where she's at. Young person, fresh out of college with student loan debt. That's your first mistake. If you started working at 18, after 4 years, I love this analysis. You get a job at McDonald's at 18 years old, and you're making minimum, a little bit more than minimum wage. They don't, most of them, they look like 12 to 15 bucks an hour. Within 4 years of working at McDonald's, you are an expert. An expert. I don't know about a master, but an expert on McDonald's policy. And people say it is undignified. I don't want to work at McDonald's. Well, then you don't deserve money. Go cry somewhere else. Working means doing what you have to do. How about Starbucks? Make coffee. After 4 years, guess what? You have the requisite experience to be a general manager and get a salary of, by today's standards, like $50,000 to $60,000. Are you gonna cry about it now? I mean, you got out of college at 22. You're in debt. The dude who went and worked at Starbucks is now your boss. Same age or even younger. 21-year-old shift supervisor or assistant manager, and you're out of college saying, like, I'll take whatever job I can get. College was a mistake. I don't blame you that you were lied to. I can respect that. Boomers told us all to go to college. It was a mistake. When I worked for Vice, I slept on a couch. I saved all that money knowing at some point I'm going to need to figure this out and I need a buffer zone. Guess what? I do the exact same thing I've always done. The first paycheck I get, I save, I don't touch. It's for emergencies only. I do not want to come crying and begging to someone saying I'm going to be homeless or die or whatever. I want to make sure that I have that money and I know where it's at. If she rented a couch out, she could save $1,000. Let's say it's $500 sleep on a couch or a sunroom, or we curtain off a portion of the living room. I've done all of these things. She then saves $1,000. 5 months later, she's got $5,000 in savings. 10 months later, she's got $10,000 in savings. You want to buy a house? With $10,000 in savings, you can buy a cheap, small house and then Airbnb it. Hey, there's a strategy. Now you've added a little bit more income. Now you're working more. 40 hours a week ain't going to cut it. And saying boomers just don't understand, there's so much wrong with this. Gen Z was raised by boomers, so they really don't understand, and I can respect that. But so many of these Gen Z people, man, they really don't understand what it means to work hard. 40 hours a week is hard work to you? It's not. I mean, maybe boomers had it better. That's no excuse for you not working harder. I could go on this for a million years, though. But I want to say, like with respect to this young woman, it is difficult. I get that. But it's harder than you realize. And what you're describing is you want luxuries. I work 40 hours a week. I can't afford it. Then work 80. What about me? Yeah, I work more than that. 16-hour days. I would, if you want to be fair and say that my exercise and lunch period, I have about 3 hours per day, is not work, no problem. Then let's just call it 13-hour days. I got no problem saying that. I'm not here to win a contest. And then on weekends, probably a couple hours of work every weekend. You got to go to the bank. I'm still checking the news, monitoring things, talking to people, but mostly the days off. You want to work as much as me? Fine, go ahead and do it. But here's what you need to do. You can't just sit here and strain yourself. I need an apartment. I deserve it. Do you? If you give yourself 5 months of sleeping on a couch or having a roommate and sharing a studio, you cut your rent in half. You add that to your savings, and eventually you can afford to seed invest. This is how all of this comes to be, where I am now. You need to get the snowball rolling down the hill. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.